Good morning again, everyone. So pleased to see a big crowd this morning, and I think we reached our capacity. We could only fit 500 people in this room. That's all they told us we could sell. So maybe next year we'll have a bigger venue. But I'm really pleased to see everyone here, and I want to thank Valerie King and her daughters for helping us open our event and to share their knowledge of the waters and the land and the importance of that and how it ties with our theme about even if we're in an industry or using water at home or in ceremony, it plays a vital role in all of our lives. So our conference this year, Water for Life, Mining for Need, Achieving Balance, was a theme that came up last year by the youth panel. It wasn't us who invented that title. It was the youth panel who came up and said, or on the panel said, you know, I still need my cell phone. I still need my laptop. I still drive a car, a Skidoo, and I have a rifle, and they're all made with metal, and they're all objects that I need every day. But yet I'm against mining. And so they talked about it more, and they said, you know, we need to work out how to get this balance, because how can we work with mining companies and how can we protect the waters together? That's so vital to both of us. And so that's why the theme for this year's conference. So I want to thank our major sponsor, Goldcorp, who's been really generous this year in helping us with having this conference, helping us keep our registration fees low and offset the travel costs for some of our speakers and elders. So I thank Goldcorp for helping us out. Okay, let's go to Goldcorp. And I also want to thank, I don't know what you want to call them. You can call them Valet, you can call them Inco. They've been our longest standing sponsor since 1994. And I also want to thank, I don't know what you want to call them too, Glencore, Strata, Falconbridge. They've been our sponsors since about 1994 as well. So I think that's amazing. Thanks a lot. And there's some people here from Valet, and I'm not sure if they're going to do cartwheels right now or what, but I'd like to acknowledge them and the people from Glencore who are also met this morning. So thanks for your ongoing support, and it keeps us stronger and helps us grow our initiative to help communities and also help the industry. Okay, so I just want to do a quick snapshot of where our roller coaster ride has been in the last 25 years, and for many of you who don't know what our association is about, we're a not-for-profit organization. Okay, so this is our birth certificate. We were born in November of 1992, and we're totally community driven. I remember when I'm not going to mention any names, but some community members came forth and said to me, you know, we need to get this going. We need to get something going. And I said, well, we need to consult with communities to find out if there's a need for it. So we sent out faxes, because they didn't have internet. No one had internet back in 1992. Sent out faxes to 350 communities. We used the Can-Do database. And we faxed these questions, 4 questions, about, you know, what do you need in the industry, and or what would an organization do to help you, and other questions. And the most common concerns that communities had at that time was if there was an organization created to help gain employment, facilitate relations, promote protection of the environment, then we're in. And that was 80 communities out of 350 who said that they wanted an organization like us to form. So we came out with our first brochure on black and white, cheap paper. We stole the logo from, I think, what was the Corral company? I can't, it wasn't PowerPoint, but the one before PowerPoint. Anyways, we found a black background for a PowerPoint or slide show, and we just cut and paste it. That's where it came from, our logo. And it has never changed. Maybe the next 25 years we might change it. Technology. And then this was our first annual report, 1993. We had 25 members. Our first glossy brochure when we had some money. And then our logo has always been Aboriginal participation in the minerals industry for the benefit of all. And now we're talking about mining company participation in the Aboriginal community for the benefit of all. Things have switched. There's a paradigm now where we're now talking about getting companies, because we know that our territories go beyond the postage stamp Indian Reserve, and that's our community. And so mining companies are actually working or participating in our community, but for the benefit of everyone. So then we had our first birthday celebration, and that was our very first conference in 1993, where we were working very closely with the Inuit for Nunavut. We hung around Ottawa quite a bit. They were signing their land claim agreement. They asked us to help have input in on their mineral mining policy. We helped them with that. And then we thought, well, why not celebrate Nunavut through our first conference? And it was a gamble. We never had put conferences on before. So we continued to work since 1993. We've worked with hundreds of Aboriginal communities, hundreds, thousands, not just here in Canada, but all over the world. And to help us start in the early days, we worked very closely with First Nations, Inuit, the Métis, what was called the Native Council of Canada for urban. And we all got together and we produced a document called Listen to the Aboriginal Community. Because this document basically outlined all of the desires, aspirations, wishes, needs of the communities. And it helped one of the diamond mines that was opening up at the time, the dog rib said to us, you know that document? That helped us negotiate our agreement with that mining company. Because it had everything that we needed to negotiate with. And I'm just going to go over some of the highlights. And the only reason why I'm going over the highlights is because I want to use it as a checklist. Have we made any progress in the last 25 years? So it's hard to read this slide, but this is the table of contents to show you that we tried to hit every topic: environment, employment, revenue sharing, land use, culture. So they said that, these are, I just pulled these right out of the report. No limited opportunities, fails to consult, impacts and benefits agreements needed, need communication, using the government to help maintain the communication link. Needs to be a memorandum or some kind of agreement between government and the community before a project begins. Mines ministers, make sure that the monies are there for communities to negotiate, to participate. Make decisions on land use. Communities wanted decision-making on land use. The employment area, low-skilled, quality employment. There's lack of quality employment. Aboriginal communities do not readily identify the minerals industry. They don't. I was talking to someone yesterday about mining companies are robotic. Communities are emotional and personal. How do you bring those two parties together? And that's still a challenge today. But it's getting a lot better today, and it's actually a lot better than it was. Aboriginal communities do not, lack of funds, awareness of knowledge of the corporate process. We talk about one of the biggest things I gave speeches on in the early days was the corporate decision-making. You know, corporate decision-making, top-down, Aboriginal community decision-making, bottom-up. You know, how do you work with those systems? Employment plans, we hear more about that today, and the need for planning employment. Another one that companies said to us, we need tax benefits. For every dollar that we spend on community consultation, we want to get that back. That was a pure CFO requirement. And sure enough, we worked closely with the PDAC, and a few years later, we ended up getting flow-through shares. We ended up getting consultation included in the mineral exploration depletion allowance, I think it was called. Companies should develop a liaison, contractor preference, and now we see this in agreements where communities can ask a company, can we get preferential treatment on contracts, subcontracting? Can you piece out contracts? More employment, human resource strategies, inventory of businesses, community workshops on mining. Okay. There's a lack of awareness of business opportunities, capital difficult to obtain. And another area that we're not really discussing, but on reserve mineral development was hindered by the Indian Act. Okay. They wanted to see more working groups. Community aspirations should be known. Funding programs. And this is a big area that we're talking about today, baseline studies. You know, communities weren't involved in baseline studies before. Now they are. It's a requirement. Conduct baseline studies. We were talking about how to get income and benefits from mining. Cash compensation for damages. Treaties were not recognized by the government. The community said that they wanted some kind of revenue from the mining operations. Get information sharing, monitor activities, and this is develop an inventory of current traditional land use. That's all we talk about, and thanks for Lillian Trapper yesterday for her presentation on how important it was to include traditional land use in project planning. Negotiate, identify a share of royalties, taxes to be paid to the community. You know, and this is an interesting case. We have the Robinson-Huron Treaty annuity claim that was launched last summer, where there's actually going to be hopefully it's historic in the fact that the outcome will yield that when the treaty says, you know, to share, to escalate payments, annual payments, that these are based on revenues earned by the Crown. So it'll be interesting to see the outcome of that case. Financial support, again, we're seeing this, the government's actually providing support for traditional knowledge studies, and so are mining companies, which is on environment. Communities wanted the right, again, this is back in 1993, wanted the right to monitor operations, integrate traditional knowledge into the plans, participation in reclamation projects, environmental protection and compensation for damages and loss. We don't have the mining recorder playing a role today, but we maybe do have a mineral development advisors, or the MNDM has a department that deals with consultation. But the mining recorder at the time, that's what we figured in 1993, was the mining recorder was to play a pivotal role in communication between communities and companies. Develop a long-term land use plan. Communities are doing that. Land use boards. You know, I mean, it was mentioned yesterday by Pujat and Nunavut that the Inuit Impact Review Board is an example. As a matter of fact, when the Nunavut Agreement was signed, a lot of communities looked at the Nunavut Agreement, and actually that was the first time legally, formally, the word Impact Benefit Agreement was ever used. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's Article 25 or 26, one of those. The bonding process, you know, and for environment, the idea was that the fund would be managed jointly by the community and the company, or the government. Joint monitoring boards, Reclamation expenditures should be tax deductible. I'm pretty sure they are now. Bilateral agreements, talked about that before. There was a need for MOUs to set the consultation process. Elders and community members should be invited to all planning sessions. Environmental groups should operate under same guidelines as companies in consultation. This is a big one. That in our very first conference on Nunavut in 1993, the Inuit panel, someone got up and said, "What do you think about environmentalists getting involved in injecting their protests on our projects up north?" And the Inuit panel says, "Well," or no, actually we called them tree huggers. And the Inuit said, "We don't have any trees, so we're okay." So they came up with ideas on, and a lot of these ideas that came out were joint initiatives. And so I think that theme, I think, is still very strong today. So so it was concluded that Aboriginal peoples have rights to certain lands and resources. Aboriginal people want to develop land, but they want to share the benefits. They want to derive economic opportunities. They wanted security and confidence to support development, and that comes through information. They wanted to develop, must proceed under the guidelines of the community. And this is where, in principle, this is how we operate CAMA, is that we operate by the community, okay? Like if the community wants us to deal with water issues, let's see how we can integrate that with mining. If we want to deal with human resources issues, how do we integrate that with mining? If they want to deal with wildlife protection, how do we integrate that with mining? So that's how we think of, on November the 15th, when I'm going home, I'm going to be thinking about what can I ask communities about next year, okay? So share your ideas with us anytime, just sky's the limit, okay? So we've had 25 years of conferences, and we've had them all over the country. And I remember back, there's a few memorable conferences. Our second or third one, I guess, we had it in Sudbury, and the big talk of the town was Voisey's Bay, and we had the Inuit from Labrador Inuit Association and Innu from Labrador, and we also had a lot of people from the James Bay Cree, and one of the guys who always came to our conferences was Chief Billy Diamond, and he kept telling us it's all about concertation. And I go, I never use the word concertation. Yeah. And he goes, no, it's not consultation, it's concertation. So that's why I always remember that, okay? And the other one that I remember is 2008 when we had a mining, and he's not a mining industry guy, but his name was Eric Sprott, who got up in 2008, he said, the world's gonna end. You're all gonna lose your money, your houses, your cars. And sure enough, we had the recession. And now everyone at the conference was saying to me, what, I didn't like that speaker, he's so negative. Okay. Anyways, I guess he told the truth. But, so I mean, there's a lot of highlights. I mean, I could go on and on about, but I want to really thank all of you for being with us. So we've all grown. We've focused on the early days. We used to focus on employment, business, training, land title. And then we focused on land claims. We had Alan Calder here one time talking about the Calder case. And we've had lots of court cases discussed, Dalgamook, and all the big ones. And then we started talking more about agreements, discoveries, whether it be the diamond discovery, the nickel discovery, the chromium discovery, the whatever discovery, and the communities that are affected by all those. And in the past decade, our events were, so we've So nowadays we're talking more about revenue sharing and environment. Okay, so any themes around that, a lot of people are interested in. Next one. So we're talking about joint management of the environment, and it was, as you could see, in 1993, that was a topic that was very important to a lot of people. But it now is more to the front. And to emphasize our drive to get more involved in environment, we actually helped launch the Aboriginal Environmental Leadership Circle, who we invite every year to co-host with us. And yesterday they had a very successful, I thought, so anyways, a water panel. So I want to thank Elsie for putting on a great workshop and for bringing the elders, the youth, and Women's Association together to help us understand more about water, you know. And so today, our Water for Life, Mining for Need, Achieving Balance. So I want to miigwech to everyone for this great journey that we've been on, you know, and so I hope that that we'll continue to work together, and I'm really happy that I had the opportunity to share this. It took 25 years for me to share about what CAMA was about, but that's who we are, and I hope that we can all work together and be successful. I don't think